You're listening to the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast, your weekly disc golf analysis podcast right here on JomezPro and anywhere you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Brian Earhart. My co-host, Nate Perkins, joins me. It is April 6th, 2025, Sunday, right after Championship Sunday in Nashville. And really, for both divisions, another great event on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Nate, you weren't on the ground this time. How did it feel?
No.
Feel kind of weird not being out there?
It feels good to get a break in every now and then, but come Sunday, I'm always wishing that I was, preparing to interview the champions. There's so much reward in that experience, and there's always some questions that I would have asked them that I really wanted to hear about, like specific holes and specific shots. So it was a little weird not being there, but always good to just watch it from home on the Disc Golf Network. I really enjoy Sunday for that reason. Get to watch some disc golf and just waiting on that White Lotus episode to come out this evening.
It was very bizarre. There were two different instances of deja vu. Number one, Kristen and Silva coming down the stretch, getting to a playoff, and Silva letting go of her lead and giving the victory to Kristen,
Yeah.
just like GMC. But then in the MPO division, a very similar thing happening on 17. Niklas, the Finn, putting it in the rough. Paul has an opportunity to do the exact same thing that Kristen did. Didn't quite shake out the way that she had it, but just a weekend full of stories, and there's a lot to unpack here. What did you take away from the FPO?
Yeah, I think that the battle with Silva and Kristen was another one for the ages. I mean, the division just keeps delivering. And the fact that Silva played at the level that she did and didn't win the tournament, I mean, she set the new record for the highest average tournament finish at 1020, I believe she averaged unofficially right now, and didn't win, which shatters Missy Gannon's record from Worlds against Kristen in Vermont a couple years ago. So just high level disc golf, and for it to shake out the way that it did, it's just another just coal to Silva's fire. She's been burned several times, and my question to you, Brian, is do you kind of feel like this was her doing? Like, did she blow the tournament on those last couple holes, or do you feel like it was more Kristen going and grabbing it from her?
I think it was both. So let's just look at skill sets. Silva, probably the most technical backhand player in FPO. One of the most technical that we've ever seen from just a skill set
Mm,
standpoint. But
yeah,
she
sure.
has to be like that. She has to be that technical with the backhand because the sidearm is non-existent. It's not even like an Isaac or Ezra Robinson where, yeah, you'd maybe call them backhand dominant because of their decision making, but you saw them off
Yeah,
the tee multiple times this weekend pull out a very solid looking sidearm that you could tell is very
yeah,
practiced. So coming up
they
to
have it.
17, they do have it. Coming up to 17 for Silva, she has to go backhand. That's the shot. But a lot of this
Mhm.
course at Mill Ridge sets up for a very stock righty sidearm. That's why we saw Austin Turner in the MPO division have a shot to win very easily because finally a course shapes up for the way he likes to throw. But for uh, Silva on 17, she has no choice but to throw a much harder shot. Here's the other thing.
Mhm.
The conditions were rough out there. The course
They were bad.
played surprisingly well for how bad everything got leading up to the event. We'll talk about that in just a second because you and I have both played in a lot of tournaments like that. But the problem is, if you cannot get right in that landing
Mhm.
zone on 17, that area had so much traffic through it throughout the weekend that it was so muddy.
Mhm.
So you're blasting a
Mhm.
shot uphill from a
Yep,
terrible bit of footing. The
yep.
backhand is screwed from the start. So yeah, she lost the tournament. She had a bad
Oh,
hole, but, like, she didn't really have that many bad holes. She had 1 double bogey in 54 holes, 3 bogeys in
wow.
54 holes. That's
And
it.
just one in that final round, right? That
And
was the only bogey in that final round, was the
yes.
17th, and, we talk about her lack of forehand, and, it's it's fancy to get it done with just the backhand, but at a certain point, when you're in the rough, like she was off on the left side at 17, you need to be able to throw 200 feet, like a little chop forehand. It not having that is just a crutch at this point. It's doing yourself an injustice to not be able to give yourself a chance to get up and down for par. For her to just like throw it 80 feet into that cluster of trees
Yeah.
and, net herself an instant bogey. It's hard to it's hard for her to see that and then not immediately go, I need to really add this to my toolkit.
But
I can't let this happen again.
yes, I completely understand. And this might lead her to want to practice the sidearm more. Maybe not. Personally, I don't think she needs to. She found herself in a rough situation and lost by just a hair to a player that, uh, yeah, she's arguably the greatest player who's ever lived in the FPO division, at least from a skill set standpoint. I mean, yeah, longevity plays
Making a
into.
case for it.
Oh, I mean, quote unquote greatest of all time, longevity does play
Yeah.
into that. However,
Yep.
ceiling and execution and hitting that ceiling, she's the one, and she's hitting a new level. I saw
Yep.
Drew Gibson post something on Twitter. He's like, she might be 10-15 rated by the end of the year. She's just playing that good and coming off of
Yep.
winning by 23 strokes over Silva
23.
in Jonesboro. Yeah, she knows who she's going up against. And let's just take a look here. Just both of them. Birdie rate, Kristen and Silva are tied, 48%. They birdied almost half the holes on the weekend. They were tied for bogey rate at first place. They only had 3 bogeys on the weekend. They had the same amount of double bogeys on the weekend. Kristen led the division in park jobs, circle 1 in regulation, circle 2 in regulation,
What about putting?
strokes gained tee to green. And then when it comes to putting, Silva won, actually clobbered
Mhm.
the rest of the field in strokes gained putting, 9.94. Strokes gained C2, she was leading 4.77. But
Wow.
overall, Kristen is just that player. She won. She threw an unbelievable drive on 18. She
And
said in the interview,
look
the
this.
competitor in me took over. That to me says I was outside of my body. Look how hard she throws this shot.
The shot itself, Brian, is impressive, but for me, it's the composure in the moments leading up to the shot, and it's the manifestation of the bullseye birdie itself. Like the the magic of the disc, like kicking off of that tree and kind of pushing forward into the bullseye, I think is not just a random event, right? I really think that the way that Kristen is visualizing it coming her way is what allows it to, and she that's how she says it is in from her
Mhm.
perspective, and I know that there's a lot of people out there, it's like you might believe it, you might not, but time and time again, she's stepping up to the tee and making this reality happen, unfold in front of her, and it was the shot on 18 for me, it was also the putt on 17.
Yes.
You just talked about that muddy hill. It was a full rip on that one to approach there, gets it to outside the circle, maybe 42 feet even,
Mhm.
and it's not like she's taken this extra deep breath or extra time on her routine, or it's not like there's any nerves at all. She almost has this, like, she's stoic, like, almost a half smile even when she's, like, going through her little taps that she does with her putter. She goes with that 7th tap, and just to cash that, like, in the heart, no doubter it's not just a random event, she's just able to find the the best possible headspace to operate out of for an athlete. It's really special.
Yeah, and even after the win, you saw all these emotions kinda coming out of her. She won, but she's like, "Oh, I won. That's wild. I can't believe Silva didn't
Yeah.
win," and there almost felt like there was a little bit of, like, empathy and guilt
Yeah.
this time because she's won so many times. She's crushed so many players. And in this situation, a person like Silva,
Oh,
she just seems like such a good person and a good competitor, someone that you want to bring your best stuff against. And Silva probably thinks the exact same of Kristen. They both sought each other out for this moment. And yeah,
Wow.
I cannot say enough about just being a consummate professional. Sarah Hokum said it on the broadcast, but there's a burden to bear being this good. It's tough winning over and over and over again. This is her second three-peat of the season, and we were talking about this for the MPO show. Think about disc golf time, disc golf tour time, 3 years. How different people become. How many experiences that mold people happen over the course of 3 years touring on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And for Kristen, going overseas, back overseas, overseas,
Mhm.
back overseas, as much as she
Mhm.
has, three-peating is incredible because you're winning
Yep.
same tournament as 3 different versions of yourself, and the
Yeah.
field is changing, everything else is changing around you, but to be able to
Mhm.
do that, that's just a special thing. Nate, do you have any kind of final thoughts about FPO before I ask you a more general question?
I was pretty surprised about just the separation that these 2 had over the rest of the field, in particular with Silva being able to, hold her own with the distance. I mean,
Oh,
was it
yeah.
like 9,500 feet? And it was really windy, and the condition, like, it was muddy, and so it's hard to really generate a lot of power, and I felt like you needed power for the course. So to see, her keep up with Kristen, push the playoff, and beat players like Holland and Ella and, Missy Gannon who'd played well for the first time this year. To see that much separation between first and second and the rest of the field was pretty unique for FBO.
Well, then before I ask my question, do you think we're gonna see a lot more of these 2 battling at the top, separating from the rest of the field?
Yeah, I think Silva will undoubtedly be competing for more titles this season. I think her putting is too good.
Too
I
good.
do think it's too good. I mean, you know, it's top 20 in both MPO and FPO.
Period.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just her routine just instills so much confidence. It's when I'm watching her putt, I'm like, she's gonna make it every single time. I mean, inside 55 feet, I'm confident in her stroke. So
Mhm.
she'll be competing for titles. I do think she has to push through some
Some
wall
block.
as an
Yeah.
athlete. There's some block, Brian, because there still is that almost like when the shoulders droop and you're just down and it's like the middle of round 2 and you're Eeyore and you're sad that you didn't get the birdie. That attitude is it's just you don't see it in other champions. You have to shed that attitude first before you can fully step through that door and be competing week in and week out. So I think she still needs to find what that is that it, you know, gets her to that, kind of down space that she's
Mhm.
in.
Well, I said this about Niklas in the MPO show, and we'll talk a lot more about Niklas in just a second. Her play style is very sustainable. The way she throws the disc will scale over time very well, and she has not even reached her athletic potential just physically. I mean, we see her posting her training in the gym this offseason, at the squat rack and making sure she's taking care of her body to be in condition to last an entire season. But on top of being in really good shape right now and being strong and fit, she plays this smooth, under control style. She plays a very technical style that's hard to pull off consistently. But, just like I had said about Katrina Allen for a very long time, Silva's kind of following in those footsteps, playing that style. And you have to be really on. You have to have a lot of confidence to play like that, but it's obviously very successful when you're good. And I think we're going to see Silva doing this for a very long time. I don't think we're going to be hearing stories about torn labrums, UCL tears, things like that. I think
Mhm.
the way she plays is going to definitely benefit her in the long run. So yeah, she has
Yep.
a lot of time to work out the golf part, but when it comes to making the disc do what she wants, yeah, she has that for sure. Uh, Nate, I want to ask you a question, and I want maybe for you to tell some stories of your own experiences. These weekends where everything is
Mhm.
unclear from a
Yep.
tournament operations standpoint, very frustrating as a player because
Oh, yeah.
you wish everything was itemized for you. This is how it
Mhm.
is. It's this. The weather's then going to do this. You're going to show up
Yep.
here at this time. ding to ding to ding to ding. But so many things are being figured out in real time. So many things are
Mhm.
changing in real time. And then I've sat while and listened to the operations crew or the other people on the Disc Golf Pro Tour have these calls, and they have to make really tough calls, and there's differing
Mhm.
opinions, and there's people saying, "Hey, think about it this way. We need to make this
Yep.
decision." Yes, you can have policies about weather and how to handle things, but each venue is different. Each
Yeah.
local organizing committee is different. The resources you have are always different. This is not the PGA where there's just lavish facilities all over the place. You have to make some tough decisions, and when it comes to this weekend, it was no different.
Mhm.
Conditions were horrible. Shout out to the team for making everything playable. But Nate, what are your memories playing tournaments
Yeah.
like this?
Man, at first, I wanna touch on that I thought for sure that it would be a shortened event,
Same.
and it just it seemed inevitable. Everyone kept talking about how there were gonna be more storms and how it just, of course, wouldn't be playable, and, they made that cut in the MPO, uh, at the cash line. So those players like right outside weren't able to compete, which it hurts, but it makes sense for to give the players that are in that cash line an opportunity to play that third round in case there were some bad storms. But to answer your question, Brian, it's just the uncertainty of every round that makes it hard to really drop in and play your best disc golf
Yeah.
because you're all of a sudden thinking about like, is it just going to be 2 rounds? Do I need to push more? And w- during that, it's like everyone is getting dealt a different card.
Mm.
I noticed this week that, just for example, not to pick on Casey White, but the man didn't have to come back and play. And it was like pretty calm when he shot that 12 down. And, the other players during that same round, the wind just like stopped for the back nine and or it picked up for the back
Yeah.
nine rather where it had stopped earlier in the day. So it when the storms are like that and when the course is like sopping wet in the morning, muddy, it's it's just almost not an even playing field. And that's just kind of the nature of our game. So I think getting past that, getting past as the player, like the uncertainty of will the will the horn be blown?
Mhm.
Like, will I get to play tomorrow? How close am I to the cut? Is there even going to be a cut? Like all that uncertainty, it's hard to push past that, and I think that the better players, the more experienced players are able to kind of put that aside when they step up on the tee or when they step up to the putting green and just kind of forget about it. When I think actually a majority of the field, um, is gets kind of hit with it. It really brings them down and they get caught up in the unfairness of it and just the uncertainty of it, and they're not able to play good
Mhm.
golf.
I was joking on the show with Charlie that when a horn gets blown or when any weather decision has to get made, it seems like a lot of players wanna become a meteorologist. A lot of players wanna become the director of the Disc Golf Pro Tour and say what the most obvious answer is that wasn't being done. And those are usually the players that are not playing for a win. And you hear the
Yeah.
chatter all throughout the course. I'm not sitting here, dogging on any specific player, but
Mhm.
when the horn blows, sometimes there's just an innate desire to want to blame someone or something for your
Mhm.
expectations being burned. And depending on how a player feels at a certain point in the season, if they're burnt out already or if something in their life's not going well, they're not fully prepared for the event. Adversity like this, even if it's just a frisbee golf tournament when you zoom out, it can really mess with somebody and it makes you feel emotions that otherwise you don't normally feel.
Yeah. No, it's a good point, Brian. And I mean, in this case, I don't, they did the team on the ground did an unbelievable job of getting the
Unreal.
course even playable. I didn't think it would be possible. I've played Mill Ridge for many years, and it gets soppy. It's not quite that clay that we saw like down at that growth throw event, but it's close. I mean, it gets muddy, and there wasn't a clean player coming off the course all week.
I also have to give shout outs to the players that went out there and helped the ops crew and helped the local organizing committee clean up debris, go into the rivers and try to clean things out, get water flowing in good directions. Uh, Holland Hanley, one of the players that I have to give a shout out to. Uh, and there were multiple other players that
Wow.
stopped to go out and help. And to me, I have to highlight that because we forget sometimes where we are as a sport, we are still grassroots. Yes, Disc Golf Pro Tour is amazing, and I think people need to just zoom out again, like I was saying, and realize how crazy it is that we have this. This is
Mhm.
way far ahead of what a lot of people thought we would be doing. Um, at the end of the day, it's a lot of volunteer work, and there's not much of a way around that.
Yeah.
And for the players to go out there, cast their egos aside, instead of saying that's not my job, they said, no, we're all disc golfers here. Everyone working on this course loves disc golf and they're putting on this for the disc golf world. And yeah, just huge shout out to everybody that tried to get this together because ops crew, Greg Diaz, Evan Spur, Andrew, Nick, all those guys out there, unsung heroes of the disc golf pro tour.
Mhm.
I've done a little bit of help with the ops crew. My wife Lindsay used to do a lot of help with them. They work till dark.
Grind. It's a
They
hard
work
work,
till
man.
dark. They get up the next morning, they only sleep for a few hours, and they keep going. And
Yep.
they're blow torching tee pads. They're doing so
Oh,
much work
wow.
that people don't see, every
Yeah.
single week. So shout outs to those guys. I can't believe we got 3 rounds in. That's just
Yeah.
crazy. Um,
Yeah,
w
it's wild.
with that, Nate, any final thoughts on FPO before we jump into MPO?
No, man, the MPO was just it also delivered, huh? It's just once again, Sunday got kinda calm and scores were just dropping all over the place. Gannon finally making a push. I feel like it's the first time we really saw the Iceman, like, reemerge, from the depths. So, yeah, Gannon was one of my big takeaways. I think Paul Macbeth being in the mix again. He's been in the mix every single tournament this year. I don't think anybody's upset with that. Um, he faltered at the end, but for him to be the guy that people still have to beat in 2025 is pretty sweet. And yeah, I think Austin Turner, another huge storyline. I'd love to get your 2 cents on his performance this week.
Yeah.
I know you kind of mentioned that the course kind of set up well for him in the sense of some of the shapes, but I also felt like he was just really comfortable out there.
Mhm.
And, he kind of has always had that real, cool guy, kind of confident, presence to him, but felt really relaxed in this final round and was able to stay in it till the end. I'm pretty impressed with this game.
Yeah, before we get into it as a whole, I do wanna say some stuff about Austin because, as a lefty, uh, we're all rooting for and rooting against each other at the same time. You're looking to see what the lefties did, you're looking to see what lines they're taking, you're not really taking
Yeah.
full lines from the righties, um, but Austin is someone that I know decently well. I spent a lot of time with him prior to 2020, in a very short, condensed period of time. And I heard a lot from him. And for those of you who didn't hear the story of Austin in the broadcast, um, he was very young when he first started to get noticed. I think this was like 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
Um, I heard the story that he went up to Bob Julio at Discraft and he said, "Hey, I'm in Innova country right now. I'm sponsored by Innova, but I used to throw almost only Discraft." And Bob was like, "Let us know when you're ready and you can make the switch." He switches over, he wins Junior Worlds. He ends up beating
Mhm.
Ken Climo at Throwdown the Mountain. 2017,
Wow.
he has a huge year out there on tour. I believe he was like 17 years old or something like that.
Yeah, a
Um,
lot of top tens.
right away he becomes like this stud. And I believe he
Mhm.
gets moved up halfway through the year to the Discraft Elite team. The Vulture comes out because he was telling them that he wanted to dislike the Vulture. I believe that's the story. Um, he had everything going for him, and this was like early
Yeah.
on. This is before Macbeth signs with the team. He was going to be that new up and comer to carry
Yeah.
the company into the spotlight again.
Do
And
you remember he toured with Jeremy Colling? He
yep,
was in the Venza.
he was in the Venza, Toyota Venza.
So funny.
An unlikely duo touring together. I
No doubt.
big brother,
So
little
funny.
brother vibes for sure. But I remember as time went by from 2017 to 19, the spotlight was very bright for him, and I don't think the expectations, uh, suited him very well. I think the game changed from something he would go out and just do as a little kid in the woods in Mint Hill, right next to Charlotte, to now something
Yeah.
that he has to do to please
Yeah.
people, or so he thought at the time, and he started to get injured, his back started to hurt a little bit, it started to get worse, and then I remember talking to him in 2019, his mental health was really going down the toilet. He was starting to question everything in his life, his confidence was low, he couldn't throw
Wow.
it all. I remember playing practice round with him, AB, and Adam in 2019, and they were just out driving him by, 75, 80 feet. And he'd turn around to me and he's just like, I can't do it anymore. I just don't have this. And he's, constantly just getting more and more depressed about it. So then eventually, yeah, he takes the time off and, whatever he did worked. He rehabbed, he started getting him back into lifting, got into great shape. And, yeah, now here he is. He was on DGA for a little bit, got dropped off the
Mhm.
team after a rough season, uh, went mixed bag, and then almost didn't go back out on tour this year. That's the
Really?
story that I heard, and it took Discraft being like, "Hey, bud, like, come back home, like, we believe in you," and he went back, and here he is. And so just I'm sure he's probably learned so much about himself just as a human being through this whole process, and when your love for something gets challenged, sometimes it's those hard moments that challenge you that really make you realize how good you have it. So I'm sure he's really happy about this podium finish.
Yeah, it's a good story, man. It's hard to come back. Hard to come back to the game when you feel like you've lost the skill to play. Like you
Mhm.
can't keep up, and you've lost the dedication, and then you're dealing with the injuries. It's a good story, and you can tell he's a different person for sure. The way that he's carrying himself out there, the way that he performed in this final round was special, and he definitely has the tools to win, man. I can see him winning a lot of events.
I noticed the golfing really shining for him. I remember hole 6, I think it was in the morning round or maybe in round 1. He laid up It was this first half of round 2 on hole 6. He laid up a putt for bogey, and
Mhm.
that's a tough thing to do,
Yeah,
especially
that
if you're
downhill.
Yes, and
Yeah, I remember that.
that's a lot of maturity right there. There's some players that just
Yeah.
can't in their soul do that, but
Yeah, it was like
yeah,
ripping wind with some OB behind it. Yeah.
yeah, and he did that multiple times. He would make a mistake, and then he'd make up for it by throwing a very solid, well thought out shot, and that's how you're gonna keep taking those strokes on the field and making, those mistakes up over the course of a weekend.
Yeah. Wonder how much he lost on that last putt, a few thousand or something. It hurt. That stung.
Is the payout out yet? Let's take a look.
It probably is out. That'd be cool
Uh,
because I mean, it was just like bullseye's edge, and it was to get solo second, and then it just kinda lost focus, or maybe it was a little muddy where he was at. I noticed that several times throughout the event that it was just hard to trust your footing, and there were some short putts missed because of the the push off that either was there or wasn't there.
2nd place is 6,000, 3rd place is 4,000, so I believe him and Gannon
Okay.
split
So he lost
5.
1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he lost 1,000 on that bullseye putt, so not the worst, but it stings, and it's still, it's still T second you know, getting third or worse. Sometimes one stroke, you drop 5, 7 spots, so not so bad.
I think I actually I wanna ask you, I have an opinion on this too. How close is Austin's skill set to being, like, the perfect lefty archetype to win a world championship?
What do I really feel he's missing? I think that I would just love to see him play on some tighter courses and see like what his, gap hitting skills are like, cuz I know he has the power, I know he can get around the disc and throw it 550 on the one angle. His forehand is really impressive. Uh, it's up there with Clemens as one of the most powerful lefty forehands that it exists, really. And
Mm.
it's just to win a world title, I think often you've got to be able to hit gaps and repeat that over and over again. Undoubtedly, we're going to be playing on courses, in Tampere at the Monster,
Mhm.
like, power only gets you so far,
Yeah.
right? You've gotta have the power, and you've gotta be able to hit gaps and repeat, so I think we'll see that coming up. And when's the first time we're really gonna see some gap hitting get challenged? Maybe if he goes West Coast and plays, up in Olympia, Washington,
Yeah,
at
Cascade
the Shell
Challenge.
at the Cascade Challenge. I think that that's a good kinda indicator for how techy someone is really feeling and could be an good indicator for his gap hitting skill set.
I mean, the man's from Charlotte, so he grew up playing Nevin, Hornet's Nest, Angry Beaver, some of the hardest tight woods courses you can play. I don't think he has a problem with gap hitting.
Mhm.
I think personally, and I think some people who are not lefties will just say it's a bunch of garbage, but I really do think that there's a huge disadvantage still. I think it's
Really?
extremely difficult to design a perfectly balanced course
Yeah.
for the highest level of disc golf. Prime example of if you make a 550-foot par three, that's a big giant distance line
Mhm.
for a righty. A lefty will never be able to get it, but the rest of the field, who's a professional player, can do that shot. And
Yeah.
the it's not like every hole is like that. We don't have too many 550-foot turnovers, but just that in itself leads me to believe that it has to be at the right place. So with that, I think the thing that all lefties are missing, and I think Clemens is as close to it as we've seen, but like by the metrics, like an Albert Tam level sidearm. Or like, Eagle McMahon, old Eagle McMahon throwing metric
Mhm.
sidearm. One that comes
Mhm.
out with so much speed, so much spin that it mimics a righty backhand. And from there, I feel like it would be a very even field.
Yeah.
But that's a tall ask. Those are two of
That
some of
that
the best
that
shots.
that's hard to do.
Yeah. I think it was Seppo Payu and Simon Lizotte told me in a Flight Diary episode that they both thought that Eagle's sidearm, like the old sidearm, was the single most impressive thing they've ever seen in disc golf.
Yeah, it's up there for
Yeah,
me too, man.
I think
No
that's what a
doubt.
lefty would need to be consistently winning out here on the tour.
Yeah,
Um, but hey, I am a believer in Austin right now, and I'm stoked for him. But we have some other
same.
people to talk about. Ricky Wysocki came out the gate looking fantastic. Shot
Mhm.
8 under par, 1 bogey on 5. And what happened after that? Can you kinda talk about what transpired with Rick?
It's hard to put your finger on, it seemed like he had the momentum. I mean, it was he was in the lead still until they blew the horn, right? He was 4 down on the front 9 during that round 2, 12 down overall, had the lead, and perhaps he just wasn't able to find the rhythm in the morning. He faltered during that back 9 that they played at 8 AM?
I think they teed off at 8:30, something like that?
Yeah, 8:30, so, it's just not the time that Ricky ever plays, practices, and nor is it for the rest of the
Yeah,
MPO field,
like,
but
how can you
some
like, think about that? Yeah.
yeah, because some people, it's not an issue, and, it's hard to really say that that was the issue for Rick, but just on paper, he never found the rhythm again, and then, of course, Rick is the guy that when he's out of it for the win, he kinda he doesn't quit the tournament, but he just doesn't bring the same intensity. So he took a couple numbers on the front 9 of the final round, and it just seemed like, based on his scorecard that he just wasn't in it anymore. So it was a big shock for me. But again, I think that Ricky can just show up and win any tournament, and he's still healthy right now. So I'm not too worried about whether or not we'll see Rick again.
It really all started going downhill. Hole 9, that first part of round 2, where he throws the
when it
forehand.
skipped out of bounds, got blown out.
It was he was gonna get a nice
Insane.
reverse skip, and the moment he was starting to
Yeah,
get that skip forward, the crosswind just gusted and blew him out of bounds, like, that's a
it
shot
was
that
a
he
joke.
probably was very satisfied with.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I was gonna skip way
yeah.
right and be way out in the middle and, another big forehand for the birdie, and yeah, there's just some times when the wind is just blowing in a way that changes changes the game, and that's one of them. I mean, when your disc slows down like that and reverse skips, what can you really do?
He birdies 1 hole after that when they come back to finish round 2, and then
Mhm.
finishes even in the final round and drops to 24th place.
Wow.
A rough finish for Ricky
Yeah.
Wysocki, but
Triple bogey.
what I thought was interesting about this tournament was that we thought it was Rick, and we thought it was Isaac, and then we thought it was Austin, then we thought it was Paul. Gannon
Mhm.
sneaks up late. Niklas starts the final round just on fire. In the morning, he birdies 6 of the last 7 and then gets the first
Yeah.
7. Um,
Wow.
this is continuing to happen. Every single tournament, it feels like, has been a 10-person sprint to the finish, and then slowly, one by one, people start dropping like flies. Why now? It feels like everyone was talking last year about the tour slowing down and all these players dropping off the tour, and yet the ones here are all contending for the win, it feels like.
Oh, I mean, I think that that's all just noise out there, right? That's just people talking smack about the game, and uh, the tour is at a better place than it's ever been as far as the quality of the field, right? This is going to be the case every week. We're going to have these intense battles, and it's the nature of how disc golf sets up. It's you dial the difficulty back from ball golf just a bit, and putting is more approachable with disc golf. So there's just so much more scoring in our game than there is in golf, and it's pretty rare to see the leaderboard, stacked with 10 people or 5 people even that can win with a few holes left, at a big golf tournament. Often there's a bit of separation. And now with our game where we're at, it's just how it is. And I'm here for it because it delivers some of the best finishes in sports. And yeah, FPO was a little better than MPO this week, but MPO, it had me standing up there for a bit when Niklas made the putt on 15 after Paul went out of bounds. Oh, we've got it. Here it is. What is this free wrist
He's
floaty?
like 5 feet right of the
Oh my
basket.
gosh. It is just incredible putting toward the out of bounds too. I mean, he had an opportunity. He could lay up, take a stroke on Macbeth, you know, and no doubter on the stripe.
This is a beautiful angle of this
Wow,
putt.
that's like
Standing.
55.
Nate, I told a story during the final round about UC Maresma, you know, having Paul Macbeth take a look at some young Finnish players that were playing kind of an
Mhm.
exhibition round, and he picks out Niklas from the pack. And I know you've interacted with Niklas when he was young before he got
Yeah.
in the spotlight. What did you first see in him?
Oh, I was I was blown away from him. He was maybe 6 inches shorter than he was now, and the way that he carried himself, I'm like, I couldn't quite tell how old he was because he looked so young, but felt so mature and confident and just sure of himself on the disc golf course. And I actually had an opportunity to play with him at Seabay in Finland in 2019, I believe it was. So I don't even think he was a Finnish champion at that point, and he was still kind of the name that people would bring up, like, "Hey, this is our next guy." The Finns are so proud, and they're like, "Yeah, this is our next guy." And I remember watching him as well at Kona Piste. It was him, and I don't know if you remember Oskari Wikström,
Oh yeah, smash
but
it.
it was Niklas and Oskari Wikström, and that was when I really understood what the Finnish culture, was breeding over there as far as disc golfers are concerned. I mean, just elite. athletes, and the manner in which they just take so much pride in the sport that they choose. And Niklas chose disc golf at a young age, and man, I really think that this week it kind of put him in a new class of player, Brian. I think defending the title 2 weeks ago in Austin put him in a new class, but to go back to back on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, it just puts you in a new class of players.
Nate, his sidearm looked fantastic this week.
All week, dude.
What is this? I mean, yes, he's always had a decent sidearm, but he's the backhand
Mhm.
technician. What do you pick up from this? Is he actually going to the field and just, like, ripping sidearm after sidearm after sidearm, or is this just the natural progression of his game?
I think what happens is there's a little bit the experience starts to play a role in the technique, right? I don't think he's necessarily doing a lot of sidearm specific training. I what I noticed is that when he needed the extra power, he would drop down a little bit and he would drive with a little bit more intensity from
Mhm.
the back foot to the front, right? So he just understands his energy really well, and he understands where he needs to put it. And I think that, as time goes on, he still is just such a young player.
Mhm.
As time goes on, he just gets a little bit more in tune with it. Because I know he's doing some training back home, but I don't think he's just sitting there ripping power forehands. I just
Yeah.
think especially this week, it was all syncing up so well for him as in that final round. I mean, that one that we just showed on hole 9, that's like 425, like flat to hyzer with like muddy ground. Yeah, it blew me away.
Well, I think the fact that he can win in an open course with bad conditions where speed plays like Mill
Mhm,
Ridge, I think this says a lot about his chances at the World Championships over in Finland. Playing Nokia, playing the Beast, and now that his forehand is looking like that. Last year, it looked a little bit more mechanical. This year, it looked so much more
mhm,
fluid. The power shots looked like they weren't as forced. Yeah,
mhm.
this guy is elite, elite. And now with this win, he's for sure there. He is right up top. Man, I want to see him continue to do well. It's not a 9-win season like Gannon. I still don't put him in the same class as him, but he is like point 0.5 spots below that. Um, Man, what an event! Back-to-back wins on the tour. Um, Grant's comment at the very end about the naked cowboy in Times Square. Now Niklas has the costume. He's got the hat. He's got the guitar, and I'm pretty sure that's all you need for the costume. But we'll see. He's probably in Broadway right now. He's probably downtown Nashville having a great time. And
I hope he is,
congratulations.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, the cowboy hat and the guitar, what a duo right there.
Do you have any memories from yourself being at the Music City Open as a player?
It's a cool city. I've always enjoyed my time there. I know that you and we stayed out there at the current residence down there in Franklin, and it's just the rolling hills around Nashville, and the rivers that you can go floating and exploring. It's a nice city to be in. The live music scene is a nice draw as well. I've been to some shows at the Ryman that are
Dang.
pretty memorable, and it just kind of one of the centers of music in America, which is one of the better things I think America has done is give some music to the world. So props to Nashville for that.
I remember playing a tournament there a while ago, back when I was still in the van, ran Pro Master that Lindsay and I built out. She was having a
Yeah.
rough day for whatever reason. I forgot what it was. She was kind of on a charcuterie board kick where we'd go to the store and get little salamis and cheeses and put them on a cutting board and just kind of snack on them. And she was having a rough day. And I said, do you need to eat a charcuterie board in the middle of the city? And she kind of nodded her head and started laughing. And I remember just going down there after a practice round, opening the side door to the rest of the city and just making a little charcuterie board and just like watching the city go by. And it was just so cool to be in a place that you're so unfamiliar with, watching people so
Yeah.
comfortable from this little window of your quote unquote home at the time. one of the
It's
more
a good memory.
oh, man.
Van life is
Yeah.
good for that, man.
Yeah, that's the superpower. That for sure is the superpower of tour life and having a vehicle like that you can live out of pretty comfortably. But man, Nate, what else you got? Any other final words that you have or any final thoughts that you have before we go into our course grading?
No, let's grade it, man. I'm ready to grade it.
All right,
Mm,
let it rip.
yeah. Yeah, so we'll start with the setting. For me, Mill Ridge is pretty underwhelming. I think that, the commercial, infrastructure surrounding it and it being like next to the highways, it does have some redeeming qualities with the undulating hills, and they use the elevation pretty well in that sense. But for me, setting, I'm going a 5. Design, I'm also going a 5. Um, I wasn't there this week. I've played it for many years. It just doesn't have the memory, right? When you play the course, it's hard to remember the good birdies. It's hard to remember the moments. Like the holes kind of blend together sometimes. And when I'm watching at home on the disc golf network, it's hard to track, right? It's hard to know what part of the course they're at because it's all kind of the same.
Mhm.
So a 5 isn't tanking it, right? I think that with the setting that they have, it's not a totally bad design. It challenges the players. There's some really good holes. I think it was hole 10 this year. That's just
Great hole.
a classic approach, and really set up for some of the more memorable shots this week, including this one from Austin Turner.
Oh,
Beautiful control right there. Gets
yeah.
the little slow skip in the mud. Missy Gannon got the skip off the rocks, and so many players kept hitting those little trees. I heard you talk about it a couple times on the broadcast, Brian. Those little trees kept eating people up.
They left him there on purpose, I think, and I remember hearing Goose and Ezra in their practice round just seething, like, "Why did they leave these trees?" And to me, I get it. I get why you'd be so upset,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
makes you think a little tiny bit
Mhm.
more about just swinging a stock hyzer into the green.
Yep,
It makes
it
you put
really
a
does.
tiny bit more shape on it. The shot that Silva threw is the epitome of what you have to do on that hole. You don't just get to throw something stable and slide it into the gap, skip it. Like, you
Mm,
have the OB left, you have those
yep,
little trees there, so if you wanna try to slide the hyzer up, they're only a couple inches wide, they're not that big,
yeah,
but again, it's a disc length on this side and a disc length on this side wide.
yep.
It's not necessarily the width of the trunk. Um,
The 2
that's
most impressive
yeah,
shots I saw, I think, were this shot from Silva and then the other one that Silva had. Do you remember Kristen, like, skipped her driver OB, and then Silva just threw a dime?
yeah.
Like, she was off on the left side, hyzer flip to flat, and it even kinda turned into the ground a little bit. There's some spots out there at Mill Ridge that are they're really nice, and the design, it's not a walk in the park. Like, you have to be one of the best golfers in the world to win out there. So um, I think it could just use a little bit more, something to separate, one tee from the next and one green from the next. And a lot of that has to do with the land that they're given. So it's tough in that sense, but
Mhm.
there are some things that you can do to kind of doctor the greens, or, have some hay bales, or put some sort of quality to the green that'll separate it, and kind of give us a little bit of a map around the course for when we're visualizing it as the fan, or even the player. And then infrastructure, I'm going 6. I think that this week was tough because of the rain, and the spectator parking was pretty toast, and so it makes it seem like it's worse than it is. But there's amazing places to watch disc golf out there, as there's there's really not a hole that you can't see as a
Yeah.
fan. There's not too many spots you can't follow the card or, like, stand up on the hill and watch a few holes. So in that sense, I think that's probably the nicest quality about Mill Ridge is the spectator experience, and then the prestige is getting there for me. It's a
Yes.
7. It hands down has the best trophy in the game. You can't beat the Gibson guitar that's actually endorsed by the company itself,
Mhm.
who makes the guitars in Nashville. So I think it's probably one of the better partnerships that we have, getting those custom guitars. So I'm going 7.
So you went 5, 5, 6, 7?
Yeah, where are you at?
So I'm going through the design right now. That's what I'm gonna do first, because when I think about whether or not I like the design of a course, I want that Winthrop Gold effect. I want to be able to go to sleep and, like, be dreaming about how I play a certain hole, and there's multiple holes at Winthrop
Mhm.
that do that to me, and,
Exactly,
rank
that's the memory.
yeah,
That's that memory, right?
where you, like, want to go out there and test your stuff on that hole, and, I think Mill Ridge is finally finding its identity somewhat. It is getting there. I think when I think through this course, the holes that really give that to me, 4, 5, 6, I like all of them. I remember all of them. I can, like, tell you
Mhm,
them from memory, and I can tell you what I would throw on them. I think 6 is a great par 4, just objectively. When the wind picks up, it gets really interesting strategically.
mhm,
Um, yeah, 4, 5, 6, great holes, all very unique. Um, 7, no. 8, no. 9 this year, I think 9 was very close to being, like, really good. I think they did a good job of, getting players to throw over the top, to throw sidearm left, backhand turnover left. Some players are taking the big hyzer. They pinched the OB to make it a little bit more risk reward, and the length I think is good. So, I'll add 9. 10 I think is great. 11, I we need to put a tree back. We need to put a tree back on the little flex shot 11 because
mhm,
it's lost its flex. Players can go flat to fade and that's it. I want them to actually have to get something going right, and we've lost
mhm.
that with some trees that have come down. That's okay. That's just my stupid opinion. Par 5s, neither of them cut it for me. 13, I almost think it's there. It's like a mini version of old hole 4 at Winthrop.
Mhm,
But I think it's too soft. I think it's cool, but I think something needs to change.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and I think that's about it for me. 16, I think absolutely needs to go.
A little too soft.
It's a stock forehand hyzer.
Yeah.
It's a
Down
shot.
the stretch too, they're
Yeah.
all gonna birdie it. I'm like, "Man, we need some teeth right here."
It needs to have more technicality to me
Yeah.
if it's a par 3 out there. But anyway, I give the design I give the design a 5 as well. Give it right in the middle of the road a C just because I'm starting to really like some of the holes, but there are certain ones like both par 5s, hole 16, hole 1, just something's gotta change. Um,
Mhm.
but if they keep doing it, we might be able to finally take this blank canvas, sorry, and make it something. And that's tough
Yeah,
to do. But
it is tough.
setting, Mill Ridge itself in Antioch, Tennessee, eh, it's okay. Is it close to a metropolitan area? Yes, and it's
Mhm.
next to a really cool metropolitan area. Um,
Yep.
you can and as a spectator, you go out there, you play Cedar Hill, you go play Cane Ridge, you go play Seven Oaks. There is so much disc golf culture there that, yes,
Mhm.
Mill Ridge feels kinda like it's not fully done. Um, but I give it a 6 for setting, just because of the surrounding community. Um,
Cool. Those
infras
courses are cool. Seven Oaks, so much
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, infrastructure, I give it a 6. It lacks some amenities, but the park is coming along big time. You see that big parking lot they've built in the back. They've kind of reconfigured where TC is to make it easier to flow in and out of that more built out area. But when you get out to the back of the course, there's like nothing back there. So it's like a desert out there. So 6, but the local community, Zach Hoy, his team, they are like the saving grace. They're the reason it gets the C plus instead of the C or anything less. I have no doubt that they're going to continue to make this tournament something special. Um, and the last one, prestige. I agree with you. A guitar as a
Car's
trophy
sick.
from a non-endemic sponsor in Gibson that has a guy working in the customs department, who
Mhm.
just loves disc golf, players want to win that trophy, and I think it's cool when a trophy drives the prestige of an event. Like, I remember talking to Corey Ellis, and he was, like, devastated one year that he didn't win the guitar. That's, like, right at like, up his alley. He's a guitar collector of sorts, and, I don't know. I think it's getting there. I still give it a 6 because I don't think you'll be remembered for being a
Mhm.
one-time champion of the event.
Yep.
Um, so that's
We're
my
pretty
score.
close.
We're
Yeah,
pretty
we're pretty
close,
close.
but I love this disc golf community. I have to just give honorable mention,
Yeah.
Zach Hoy and all these people here. They're using Mill Ridge, but, like, please, if you're listening, go take a disc golf vacation out to Nashville. And just like I would tell someone to go to Roy G if you go to Austin, um, instead of Harvey Penick, go to Nashville and play Seven Oaks. Go play a league there. Go meet some just wonderful people, and experience a long-standing disc golf community with a lot of passionate people. So that's my grading. Um, Nate, any closing thoughts? I mean, we have an off week, Kansas City coming up in 2 weeks. Well, where's your head at?
I'm pretty excited for the Go Throw tournament at, Eagles Crossing.
Oh,
I think
yes.
that yeah, there's some big money going down there, and Perks
Yes.
Picks, I think I might have taken the lead this week. I'm not sure about the numbers, but we're gonna have to
Hey, I got
take a
you.
little look there.
Let's take a look. It was 4-2 going into the weekend. Unfortunately, our match play picks just have to get pushed to the next one. So those got canceled.
Oh, yeah, that was sad.
We both
So where are they gonna move the match play to, Brian?
not sure yet. Not sure yet,
Okay, still
unfortunately.
waiting. Hopefully,
Um,
West Coast somewhere like Portland or Olympia or
take
something.
yes,
Portland would be great.
please.
BSF would be great, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, that it's the Northwest Disc Golf Championship, right? Is that 4 rounds?
They're doing both, right?
Yeah,
They're doing, Milo and, Glendoveer.
yeah. I'm not
So,
sure.
either
Not
either
sure.
one would be great match play courses.
But anyway, so getting into this week, no match play picks. However, you cleaned up. When we picked winners, we both picked Kristen. We both got it right. Luckily, we both get 5 points. That's a wash pretty much. Um, but then MPO, I picked Ricky. He tanked final
Mhm,
round. You picked
mhm.
Gannon and Gannon podium, so you got 3 points for that. So you got 8 points. I got 5. And
Got
then
13 down, man. How close was he? Did you see the putt he missed on, what was it, 12? For, like, 9 in a row? It was, like, I don't 20 feet
it was the
or
par 5.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I chalked that up, to the mud a little bit, maybe the downhill nature of it, but, man, what a final round. If he connects on that putt, I think he starts to put a little pressure on Niklas, Paul, and Austin checking scores over on the lead card because then they're kind of put in a little bit different spot where they might have to birdie out. So really cool to see Gannon, coming back and playing the golf we saw last year.
Well, yeah, just devastating that he beat 18, had a weird wind, missed that I believe he
Oh
missed the
yeah,
putt on
what was
15
that?
too.
He just flipped it up. What the wind was kind of head left to right there. I was shocked that the disc turned over so
It was the
much.
same miss that Paul had. I think there was wind out there that gusted that he didn't feel. They both got
Yeah,
carried way off course out of bounds. But yeah,
yeah,
and he missed the birdie on 15 as well. So getting to 25 under would have really put pressure because then they would have had to go 2 under
yeah,
through the last 4, in order to tie him.
yeah.
So you got it. You got the podium. So 8 points for you, 5 points for me in that section. Um,
And we did the
yep,
10-20
yep.
rated player.
Teemu Talakainen,
Oh,
it's okay. I forgive you. You'll get him next time. Kevin Jones beat
oh, he had a rough day. Well, I picked this before Kevin won at Go Throw, and I think that I don't know, did you watch by chance? Did you watch
yeah,
any
oh, I did.
from
Yeah.
Persimmon Ridge? Kevin's putting was off the
Mhm.
charts, man. It was like that, like, jab spin putt that he was doing. I haven't seen that since he won Pro Tour
Uh-huh.
Championship. Like, was that COVID year, 2020 he
Yeah.
won? That was some high level putting to win that tournament. Persimmon's a pretty cool spot. So yeah, Kev Jones bringing me home some points. And what does that put our total at?
It is Perks 11, Brian 9 going into the next tournament. So we'll get the
All right.
Perks picks leading up to the Kansas City Wide Open in our off week episode coming up.
Cool.
And hey, we might have another guest on. We're going to probably do that for most of our off week shows. Let us know.
Cool.
Send us a message on social media. Who do you want to bring on to the podcast? We are very open to whoever you think we should talk to. And maybe if you have questions.
Yeah, do you want a player?
Exactly.
Tournament director? Disc golf manufacturer, owner, like what? Just anything out there. What do you guys want to hear?
All right, Nate. Show's pretty much wrapped up. However, those of you who need to stick around for history class, it's time. There are those of you who have let me know that apparently the history of disc golf is just tragic to listen to. And you know what? I'm the executive chef here, and you're going to eat off the menu that I make for you. So turn it off if you need to. But hey, I think we got a special thing going, and understanding where we came from is a big deal. So this is a shorter one, and I want to just open up a discussion with you, Nate, as we close this out. I'm going to let you dream a little bit. Last we left off, Steady Ed gets into the picture. He's doing marketing for Whammo. He hears about this international Frisbee tournament that started up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. They're making their own newsletters. They have a fake organization, the International Frisbee Association. Their CEO is a fake person. They're sending out these newsletters to their friends and family to come to their annual picnic. There's a Guts tournament. This game Guts that they claim to have developed starts happening. A decade later, the newsletter gets passed on to Steady Ed Hedrick of Whammo, and they use it to sell Frisbees. Behind every Frisbee they sell is a postcard to join the IFA and get the newsletter to hear about everything going on in the world of Frisbee. And it kind of connects the world of people who love throwing a disc for the first time. And Nate, I want to bring you into a dream with me. Take yourself back to the early 70s. 1968, the IFA official newsletter goes out by Whammo. You are growing up in Austin, Texas. You have a Frisbee. It's 1968. You and your friends think you're nasty. You're like, nobody else is as good as we are. We figured out how to throw backhand. We're super cool. My buddy Frank throws upside down. I bet nobody's heard of that. And then all of a sudden, one of you joins the IFA, gets the newsletter, and hears that somebody in a different state is throwing sidearm. And you've never heard of anything like that.
Wow.
And you discover that there's an international Frisbee tournament, quote unquote, up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and you and your buddies can go compete against everyone who thinks that they're the best from their region. How freaking cool is that? Take yourself back to that. Social media, we're connected to everybody. We can see anybody throw a disc. Think about that.
Yeah, it's like when the caveman found fire, right? Like all of a sudden, like your meat didn't taste so bad, and you could cook it to medium rare. Like you're in a pinch, you could throw a sidearm. I mean, it's reinventing the wheel. It's hard to even imagine, because there was never a time where I didn't see someone throw the forehand. So it's crazy to think that someone could have such a profound, in terms of Frisbee, a profound invention.
And think that the only thing you're hearing from is this newsletter that's telling you what's going on. And this mecca of this tournament up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is where you and your buddies that think they're the best go to test your stuff and talk shop and learn all these new things. That's where ideas started to spread. There were different groups that started to get this newsletter and started to develop their own ways of doing things that all convened up in Michigan. They highlight early on in this book, Chain of Events, that there was a team from Wilmette, Illinois, right by where I kind of grew up, that went up there for the first time because of the newsletter. And it stopped being a picnic. It started being a thing that people from all over the country started to come do. There was a group of guys in Berkeley, California. They called themselves the BFG, the Berkeley Frisbee guys. One of the guys in that crew, Victor Malafronte, one of the big movers and shakers in the progression of disc golf early on, a huge distance thrower, set a lot of records early on back in the day. They all made their move up to the IFT. And the interesting thing is they had started to develop things that weren't guts. They started developing things like freestyle. They started developing things like throw, run, catch, max time aloft, all these other things that no one else had really heard of before that back then caught on as legitimate disciplines in some of these big Frisbee competitions. And that through that little newsletter, through Steady Ed saying this is going to help Whammo sell Frisbees, the passion that people had for throwing these caught on. And that's when games started to evolve and competition
Wow.
started up. And it wasn't just guts anymore. They started up all over the country and they had multiple disciplines. It was always distance, it was freestyle, it was throw, run, catch, it was max time aloft. Guts was a part of it. And eventually, we'll get into this in the next time, disc golf started to become a thing and it started to kind of separate itself from the rest of the pack because a new community started to grow. I still can't imagine how exciting it must have been to grab your buddies and just go up there and just be theory crafting of what other people are going to be figuring out
Yeah.
with this. It's the wild, wild west. And it's definitely a romantic time, at least for us now.
And are we still talking late 60s, early 70s at this point?
Yes. I believe I think it was 1973. They said that the 1973 International Frisbee Tournament was the one that kind of exploded everything.
Okay.
And after that is when we'll start getting into the other stuff because disc golf
And we're
courses,
still pre-WIFDIF, right?
I believe so. Yes. And
That's like late 70s.
Oak Grove, California, that disc golf course went in 75, I believe. So we're very
75.
close to the beginning of legitimate disc golf. So yeah, there we go. Nate.
I'm here for the history lesson, man. Taking notes. Here for it.
Well, folks, that's it. Episode 6 is complete. Nashville is done. We will see you in Kansas City in 2 weeks, but make sure to tune in for the off-week episode and let us know who you'd like us to have on the show. Brian Earhart, Nate Perkins, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.